Hey friend, welcome back. This is the Daily Spark. Let's learn something fun today. I am currently drinking my third cup of coffee. I'm really needed.
3 cups? It is only 10 in the morning.
I know, but I took my coffee grinder apart early this morning. It was making a very weird clicking sound. I just wanted to see how the little gears worked inside. That is a very brave choice before you even have caffeine. Let me guess, you cannot put it back together now. Exactly. I have a pile of plastic pieces on my kitchen counter. There is a tiny metal spring that belongs nowhere. You know, that urge to take things apart is deeply human. Kids do it all the time. They want to know how the world works. Right. But as adults, we get so scared of breaking things. We get really scared of making messy mistakes. Especially learning English. We think it should look perfect. We assume we need some rare, special talent to succeed. People think learning a language is hard and scary. But actually, it's just about keeping that childlike wonder alive. We will explore how staying endlessly curious can help you learn anything, just like the original Renaissance man. I love that idea. Curiosity over perfection.
So, let me ask you a question, Ryan. Have you ever looked at a bird flying and wondered how you could build a machine to do the exact same thing?
Honestly, no. I usually just think, oh, what a nice bird.
See, most of us just watch the bird and move on. But there was one guy in history who absolutely refused to do that. He watched the bird, grabbed his notebook, and started drawing mechanical wings.
We're talking about Leonardo da Vinci, aren't we?
We absolutely are, the ultimate Renaissance man.
When people hear his name, they usually get a little intimidated. They think of the Mona Lisa. They think of a perfect genius.
Right. They think he had this magical brain from birth, like he was just born, knowing how to paint and invent things.
But that's a complete myth. He wasn't magic at all. He was just a guy who never, ever stopped asking questions.
He wanted to discover everything about the physical world. He wanted to figure out how water moves in a fast river. He wanted to know exactly why the sky looks blue. He didn't just wake up one day and master art. Exactly. He had to start at the very bottom, sweeping floors. And he left so many projects completely unfinished in his life.
I actually love that detail about him. It makes him so relatable. He got distracted. He started grand things and just gave up.
He was basically the king of starting a new hobby and dropping it.
When we learn English, we look at fluent speakers and feel bad. We think, wow, they're just naturally gifted with languages.
But we don't see their messy, confused notebooks. We don't see the thousands of mistakes they made in private.
Leonardo shows us that greatness isn't about being perfectly flawless. It's about staying curious even when you mess things up.
So today, we're going to look at his actual life, not as a perfect genius, but as a very normal guy.
A guy who just really liked to figure things out.
You know, I was born in a really small farming town.
Oh, I didn't know that. Where exactly?
Up north. And as a kid, I just loved collecting interesting rocks. I was a very curious child, honestly.
Rocks? That is quite a talent to spot good rocks.
Exactly. But let's look at that phrase I just used there. I said, I was born in a small town.
Right. Born in is such a wonderfully simple phrase. But emotionally, it really feels like opening a new book. It sets the stage for someone's entire life story.
Definitely. It grounds you to a very specific place and time. So our guy Leonardo was born in Vinci. Vinci was just a tiny, quiet village in Italy.
He was not some wealthy prince or rich city kid either.
No, he was just a normal country boy. And he showed an early interest in nature.
Man, I love that phrase. Emotionally, it feels like spotting a tiny, fragile seed. You just know it will grow into a massive tree someday.
Exactly. It's not just about liking a fun hobby. It means adults could already see his deep passion forming.
He would walk around the hills and just discover things.
He studied bugs, leaves, and how water actually moves. He had a natural talent for observing the real world. Think about that for a second. What did you show an early interest in? Well, I showed an early interest in taking apart old radios. Look where you are now, working in a radio studio. True. So here's your use it tomorrow tip, friend. Next time you meet someone completely new, try using this. Tell them the exact city you were born in.
Then share what you showed an early interest in. It is a wonderful way to start a truly deep conversation. Speaking of early interests, his intense focus created a bizarre secret.
Wait, didn't he write all his private notes in French? Like he just used another language because he felt fancy?
That is a really fun guess, Ryan. But no, the real truth is way weirder. He actually wrote all his notes completely backwards. Do you mean actual mirror writing? From right to left across the whole page? He obviously had incredible natural talent, but he always chose to do things differently. Let us look at that exact phrase. Do things differently. It has a very specific, bold feeling. Right. It feels wonderfully rebellious, honestly. It's not just changing a tiny daily routine. It feels like bravely breaking the rules on purpose. You've tried writing with your non-dominant hand before. It feels clumsy, slow, and totally messy. You've been there, right? Oh, absolutely. My arm cramps just thinking about doing that. But why did he invent this bizarre writing method? Well, Leonardo was naturally left-handed, you know. If he wrote normally, his hand would smear wet ink. Ah, so he just didn't want to make a mistake. Yes, make a mistake is our next key phrase today. Think about how that phrase feels inside your body. It feels like a sudden, awful drop in your stomach. A mistake is an accident you instantly, deeply regret. Honestly, I think that is pure practical genius. Here is your quick use it tomorrow tip. Think about a weird, unique routine you have at work. Tell a coworker, I'd like to do things differently. It sounds much better than saying you were just weird. That weird left-handed writing perfectly matches his split brain, honestly. Exactly. His brain was totally divided. Which brings up a massive historical debate. Right. If you ask me, he was absolutely a scientist first. No way. The man painted the famous Mona Lisa. He's clearly a brilliant artist first. But he was so genuinely curious about physics. He was constantly trying to invent new flying machines. True, but he used art to discover human anatomy. It's a really tough call, honestly. What would you say? Was he more artist or scientist? Honestly, I can't choose. We really need a good phrase to balance these two sides. Oh, definitely. Let's look at the phrase on one hand and the matching phrase on the other hand. Let's break down how this phrase actually feels to use. It feels like you're literally holding two different ideas. Imagine holding a wet paintbrush in your left palm. You look at it and say, on one hand, he was an artist. Then you look at a heavy metal gear in your right palm. You say, on the other hand, he was an engineer. It feels like a physical scale. Exactly. You're not picking a winner yet. I wish people argued like this on the internet. Right? People usually just yell at each other online. This phrase is a very polite way to show contrast. Time for your use it tomorrow tip. Think about a difficult decision you need to make soon. Maybe you are deciding to buy a new phone. Tell your friend, on one hand, this phone is cheap, but on the other hand, the camera is terrible. It makes you sound so thoughtful and wise. Try it out and see how smart you feel. Feeling smart is great, but even geniuses have to begin somewhere humble. Exactly. He didn't just walk into a studio and paint a masterpiece immediately. Right. He had a lot of raw talent, obviously, but he still had to discover how a real art workshop operated. Imagine this scenario, friend. You walk into a brand new job. It's your first day. You know absolutely nothing. Your boss hands you a broom and says, sweep the floor. You feel totally lost and awkward. How do you describe this feeling? You tell people, I need to learn the ropes. I really love this phrase. It feels very physical and active. Like you're a new sailor on a giant wooden ship. Yes, pulling the wrong rope could sink the whole boat. So learning the ropes means figuring out the basic rules safely. It feels very humble. You're accepting your beginner status. You aren't pretending to be an expert on day one. Exactly. I wish I did that at my first cafe job. Oh no. Did you break the espresso machine?
It feels like staring up a huge mountain.
No shortcuts allowed, just hard work and patience, you know?
His teacher made him do all the really boring chores first.
He had to master mixing colors before he ever painted faces.
But starting from the bottom builds a brilliant foundation, honestly.
He did not rush the process at all.
He took his time to thoroughly learn the ropes.
Are you starting a new hobby or a new job soon?
I dare you to try using these phrases tomorrow.
Tell a coworker, I'm just starting from the bottom right now.
It instantly takes all the pressure off your shoulders.
People will really respect your honesty and humility.
Next time you feel completely overwhelmed at work, just remember this.
Even the great Leonardo had to sweep the dirty studio floors.
Sweeping those dusty floors definitely gives a person time to think.
Exactly. And while he swept, his brain was always working.
He was constantly observing every tiny detail around him. You know, in modern schools, kids are often told to stop daydreaming. Right, sit still, be quiet, and just memorize the textbook.
But in Renaissance Italy, deep observation was the ultimate form of learning.
They deeply valued the ability to constantly ask questions.
To ask questions isn't just about getting basic, boring information.
Honestly, it feels like a powerful, active hunger for knowledge.
Imagine you are sitting in a really confusing training seminar.
You don't just nod politely like a mindless robot.
You ask questions to truly understand the core of the problem.
It shows you are intensely curious about how the world works.
You know, asking things helps you grow. I bet you figured that out.
And that natural curiosity perfectly leads us to our next phrase.
If you ever want to invent something entirely new, you need a specific attitude.
Right. You absolutely have to keep an open mind.
This phrase feels like throwing open the windows in a very stuffy room.
I really love that analogy. It lets the fresh air flow in.
When you keep an open mind, you don't judge strange ideas immediately.
Even if a concept sounds completely ridiculous at first glance.
Like trying to build a giant mechanical bat.
Exactly. A closed, stubborn mind immediately says, that is totally impossible. But an open mind says, well, let's test it out first. That flexibility is exactly how you finally master a truly difficult subject. So, how can our listeners apply this tomorrow? I mean, try this at your next big team meeting at work. When a coworker suggests a really bizarre, unconventional idea, don't panic. Don't reject it right away. Just smile and say, I'll keep an open mind about this. It instantly makes your colleagues feel deeply heard and respected. Plus, it keeps the creative energy flowing in the room. And honestly, who knows? You might just accidentally kick off your own personal renaissance. Let's gather up all the great vocabulary from today's deep dive. It is time for our word review. We covered some fantastic words today. First, you might have heard us say curious. I love this word. Think about the feeling when you hear a strange noise in the attic. You cannot just sit on the couch. You have to grab a flashlight and look. Exactly, it's an itch in your brain. You just have to know what is hiding up there. Here's your use it tomorrow example. My little brother is so curious about how the television works. He probably wants to tear it apart. Next, you might have heard us say talent. Picture someone picking up a guitar for the very first time. Suddenly, they play a perfect song. It almost feels unfair, right? It's a natural ability that you're just born with. You do not have to struggle for years. The skill just flows right out of you effortlessly. Try using it tomorrow like this. Maria has a real talent for making nervous people feel comfortable. That's a wonderful talent to have. Speaking of natural abilities, let's quickly remember a few phrases we used earlier. Yes, we talked about how young Leonardo showed an early interest in nature. It means his passion started when he was just a kid. We also talked about weighing two completely different sides of a tough argument. Right, we used on one hand for the first point and on the other hand for the contrasting point. Keep those phrases in your back pocket. Now, back to our core words. You might have heard us say invent. This is pure creation. Imagine a world without airplanes. People only traveled by train or boat. Then, someone builds a flying machine from scratch in their garage. They brought an entirely new idea into the world. Here's how to use it tomorrow. I really hope they invent a silent vacuum cleaner soon. Yes, please. Now, that's very different from our next word.
You might have heard us say discover. With this word, the thing is already there, it's just hiding in the dark. Like walking through a thick jungle and suddenly seeing an ancient stone temple. It's been sitting there for thousands of years. You didn't build it, you just found it. Use it tomorrow in a simple way. We discovered a beautiful hiking trail right behind our neighborhood. That brings us to our final word. You might have heard us say master. This is the ultimate goal. Think about driving a car. At first, you're terrified of every pedal and mirror. But after 5 years, you drive while drinking coffee and singing along to the radio. You don't even look at your hands anymore. You have total, effortless control over the skill. Here's your use it tomorrow example. It takes thousands of hours of practice to truly master playing the violin. Learning English can sometimes feel like climbing a huge, scary mountain. You look at the top and think, I'll never get up there. But remember what we talked about today with our guy Leo. Leonardo da Vinci didn't start at the top of the mountain. He started with a blank page and a lot of silly questions. He made terrible mistakes. He left big things unfinished. But he never lost his deep desire to figure things out. We will explore how staying endlessly curious can help you learn anything, just like the original Renaissance man. Your English journey is exactly the same as his art journey. It's not about having a special, magical talent. It's simply about staying curious every single day. So here's your personal challenge for this week. Try asking why about one new thing in English tomorrow. Maybe you see a strange phrase and you actually look it up. Tell us in the comments, what is one thing you're completely curious about right now?
We love reading your answers. They always inspire us so much.
Keep trying to discover new things in your world.
And don't worry if you don't master it immediately. It takes time.
Next time, you know that frustrating feeling when you have a brilliant idea in your head, but the moment you try to explain it to someone else, the words completely disappear and you just freeze.
Oh, that's the absolute worst feeling in the entire world.
We're going to figure out exactly how to fix that.
This has been the Daily Spark Radio.
See you next time, friend.